So what can you tell us about the new season?
Well, we're hoping to expect more of the same in the sense of the kind of balance of story of the week, storytelling, and this larger overarching narrative that we're pulling together. But we're really hoping, as I hope we've managed to in the last 2 seasons, to continue kind of advancing the game in terms of what is the machine, and now in this question with the machine being free, the question for us really is if the machine has a plan, what is that plan? And what does that mean for all of our characters?
I'll say that Sam and today was announced the character Root will be around for a lot more. How do you plan on incorporating those 2 characters in on a regular basis while maintaining Carter and Cusco and Reese?
It's what you call a good problem to have.
Yeah.
To work with such a great group of actors. We said from the beginning of the show that we wanted to continue kind of picking people up along the way, that certain numbers of the week and both Shaw and Root were persons of interest on one episode or another when they came into our universe. Shaw gives us the ability to bring in a bit of a foil for Reese, someone who has the same skill set, but maybe an even sort of more challenging rule book than Reese's. But also she's our connection to the relevant world, the organization hidden within the U.S. government that's siphoning this information and then using it to prevent terrorist acts against national security. Rune is a character we were long fascinated by because she's really in almost every way, the biggest advocate for the machine, even more so than Finch. Finch, as we learned at the end of the second season, had built a number of restrictions into the machine. He kind of hobbled it. As Michael said at the panel today, there's a poignancy in the idea of creation, kind of Promethean, Frankenstein myth of Finch creating a life, but then essentially robbing it of autonomy because he was a little scared of what it might do. Root, on the other hand, was and has been from the beginning just a believer in his creation and a believer in trusting it and letting it go free. So now that it is free, what it intends to do is one of the bigger questions for the season.
Anything you want to tell us about? Amy, after Anne.
You know what I want to talk about? No one's asked me about. One of the things that was really interesting about the Snowden revelations coming out, and for Joan and I, we wanted to know, how is everyone going to react to this? If you signed in and used your license agreement on every social app you signed up for, if you were aware of the cameras on the street already, but then someone stepped forward and said, no, they got it all. They got all your emails, they got all your texts, it's all being stored away in the NSA facility, either in Bluffdale, Utah, or in the new, bigger one that they're building, the original headquarters. What was going to happen when people found out, and would they actually care? Do you actually care, or did you say, well, if I didn't do anything illegal, I'm totally fine with it. It's great. But what we think is a really interesting route story-wise for us is, what if there was an entity that really did care about privacy and wanted to do something about it and had a real problem, not only with what the government is doing, but has knowledge of someone having built the machine, and they want to take matters into their own hands. But they realize if you're living in an Orwellian surveillance state, they have to resort to tactics that are almost guerrilla-like, and we think that that's a very fun avenue to explore. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Well, with the scandal coming out that there is actually spying going on, I saw it kind of cutely tied in with the press release. But is that going to be expanded upon more in season 3, or?
I think it's a commentary on the side part of the show that that it colors the show, it gives it a depth and an interest. Or you say no, that's actually as everyone always says, it's not science fiction, that's science fact. But I think there's always the dramatic narrative is what has to compel the show and their interactions of our characters, and that's what people really come to see. So the show can get too much up, and we can disappear into our own navels and talk about all this stuff on an intellectual, theoretical level. But I think it's a really cool, fun thing to sit there 2.5 years later to see a reel where we're intercutting actual news footage with stuff Jonah wrote 2.5 years ago, and you're going, wow, that's fun. That's fun.
Can you talk a little bit about Amy Acker being added as a series regular and how much you're going to be using her?
She's mean, man. She's just mean. She's like the nicest mean person I've ever met. I think Joan and I talk about this a lot, whether it's Elias or Root, is in the entity that I was just discussing with you prior. The most compelling villain is always the one that makes a lot of sense. It's like the craziness of reading the manifesto of Ted Kaczynski is that there's a lot of arguments that man made, as crazy as he was, and as unforgivable the actions that he took. He made a lot of sense in some of the things he was saying that were very true. And I think whether we're talking about Root or we're talking about Elias or this other entity that I mentioned, it's fun when someone who is your adversary has very compelling arguments. And I think that's what Harold Finch is starting to recognize with Root. She's done some terrible things, but the woman makes a lot of sense, and that's fun.
Well, the machine
away
seems.
from the police department a little bit. How is Carter and Cisco going to kind of be continued to be involved in the story?
I think Carter almost finds herself in an untenable Serpico position where she's being demoted to uniform, and now.
So sorry.
That's okay. I think now we have to wonder, what is she going to do about it? She's killed her boyfriend. She's killed Szymanski. Cost her her job. Threatened her son. And now it seems like HR is ascendant with the Russians. And I think the first part of the season is going to be framed by that. It's like, what is Carter up to? And I think it's going to be really, really compelling, powerful material that we have heading into the first season. And the relationship with Elias.
So Sarah on the show now full time, how is that going to change the dynamic as well? She's great. I really love that she's on the team.
She's so fun. I mean, there's something about her that when she's threatening you with a smile, like this flight of fancy that she takes with the character. I just think she adds a crazy element to the show that's dangerous and keeps you off kilter. And the interesting part is, the Larry Les beat, the episode she's in the loony bin and gets caught from the machine. So where's that going? We don't know where the machine is. We don't know if it's growing, evolving, but we know that it's reached out to a third party now. Ever since God Mode episode, which is a lot of fun. We got to do that again.